So here's an article I read recently. Activision reportedly canceled a Crash Bandicoot 5 that also starts Spyro because it wanted more live service games. And in order to not send them a whole bunch of TNT boxes with a 3-second countdown to the Activision offices, I've learned restraint. This is defense mode switching to attack mode. And when I read this, I was pissed off. Now, first off, when Crash Bandicoot 4 first came out around 2020, I think 2020, 2021, I got the game for the PS4. I think it was matter of fact, Crash Bandicoot 4 was the very last Crash Bandicoot. No, hold on, my bad. It's the very last PS4 game. I was about to say last Crash Bandicoot game. Obviously, it's the last Crash Bandicoot game. It was the last PS4 game I ever bought. The very last one. It was my swan song to the PS4, which to me, I think is still the best PlayStation system that ever came out. I think it even beats out the PS2. Matter of fact, yeah, it does beat out the PS2 for me. The best PlayStation console ever came out, and its swan song was freaking crap. Well, it was swan song for me, not swan song for itself. I'm pretty sure it's not the last freaking PlayStation Sony game that came out for the PS4. Obviously, games are still coming up in the PS4 when the PS5 came out. But the point is, for me, it was a swan song with the PS4 before I went to the PS5, started buying those games. But Crash Bandicoot 4 was the last freaking game I got, and I upgraded it to the PS5 version, whatever. And I played it I got to the middle of beating it, and then my whole low of not playing games for a few years went through. And the very first game that got me back into gaming again, and now that I'm gaming right now, was Crash Bandicoot 4. The very first game. The CD was in my PS5 for 2 years straight, or close to 2 years straight. Just in there, sitting there, resting, relaxing, as I went ahead and went through my whole period of not playing anything. And then when I decided to go back and play games again, I was playing the Legend of Dragoon, the PS1 game, Legend of Dragoon. And then even after getting to the third disc, I started slowing down a little bit. And then Crash Bandicoot 4 is what really got me into the swing of things, and now I'm playing my PS5 every day. So Crash Bandicoot 4. And I realized that even though I'm getting back into gaming this year, I've realized, it's been like 4 years or 3 years since Crash Bandicoot 5 has to be on the horizon, right? It has to be nearby. It has to be lurking through the corner. It has to be right around the corner, almost here, right? At least, midway, maybe close to being finished. Anything? And then this article, like as if my phone was freaking reading my thoughts and going into my freaking dreams and shit, freaking popped up an article answering my questions because I never bothered looking it up. I just assumed. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, but I assumed that the game was just going to come out. And then I heard it wasn't. And this article proved it. And not only was Crash Bandicoot 5 was supposed to get in development and be coming out, but Spyro was going to be in there. Because even you wonder why Spyro never came out with its Spyro 4 or whatever. Obviously, the Spyro trilogy didn't do as well as the Crash trilogy. But we're gonna have a freaking Spyro / Crash game. We're gonna have a mix-up. Do you know how big it is for especially people that grew up on the PlayStation 1 to have Crash Bandicoot and Spyro team up? That's like Mario and Sonic teaming up. And I'm not talking about the stupid Olympic dumb games that comes out with freaking Sonic and Mario. I'm talking about, imagine a platforming game with Mario and Sonic in one. That's like every nerdy childhood kid's wet dream that grew up on the freaking Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. Well, for the people that grew up on the N64 and the PS1, I think having a Crash and Mario game is not really anyone freaking hammering for that. I'm not either. They're two complete different games. But as far as like the same universe that kind of like matches closely with each other, Crash Bandicoot and a Spyro game in one is that's like a PS1. Anyone who grew up on the PlayStation 1, that's our wet dream right there. To have freaking Spyro and Crash in one game, and it was actually gonna come out of Activision nixed it, so they could do more freaking live service games, the shitty Call of Duty and all the other dumbass live service games endlessly with the freaking Apex Legends that every YouTuber on the freaking mom freaking promotes, and all the other shitty live service games that no one gives a shit about. I was reading this Reddit post and the guy was right. Unless you're a kid or a freaking programmer that does this for a living, what time do you have to be playing live service games? I know they're made to be, spend your money and be on it 24/7. What other time for other games do you have? the normal way of playing, playing different games, and then when you want to go online for a little bit and all that stuff. That's the way to do it. But these stupid live service games where like this is all people play or whatever, and then there's so much of now. So because we had a few successful ones, now we have to keep having Concord, and everybody and their mom wants to get into the fucking. You're so oversaturating the market, and people are getting sick of this shit. Live service games is gonna go the way to Dodo Bird. It was another hot thing that happened for a little bit that's going out the window. And Activision, instead of being forward thinking, they decided to hammer that down and freaking just go ahead and stick to their shitty live service games and nixed a Crash Bandicoot 5? You think Crash Bandicoot 4 didn't sell well? It sold 5 million copies, as the title says. 5 million copies. That's nothing to sneeze at. If Crash Bandicoot was a fucking music artist, he'd be 5 times platinum. And 5 times platinum the real way, not the streaming service way. But people actually went ahead and bought the shit. 5 million copies. That's half of 10 million. I know, I'm good at math. But I'm like, the Crash Bandicoot trilogy sold 20 million. Look, the nostalgia and the fact that people had, including me, we haven't had a Crash Bandicoot game in so long. It's been so many years. And then, the fact that they're actually remaking a PS1 classic. The combination of all that shit made Crash Bandicoot trilogy sell as well as it did. Of course, it was on all platforms. But, it sold it sold 20 million. That's impressive. But that's like a once-in-a-while thing. That cannot be the standard. Selling 20 million copies, that's like Pokemon numbers. Pokemon, they're two games that come out every few years, sells like 20 million plus copies, and even sometimes they sell just short under that. Mario and Zelda, their recent games just sold past 20 million, but before the Switch, they wouldn't sell 20 million. They'll be lucky to sell 10 million. They'll sell like maybe a little below 10 million, especially Zelda. Mario's hit that feat before, but they never sold 20 million like that before, unless it was Mario Kart. And that's nothing to sneeze at. That really is nothing to sneeze at. That's freaking 5 million copies is a damn good number. Matter of fact, just selling 1 million copies is good enough. If you didn't spend too much money to promote it, like freaking Sony did with Concord, 100 million. Like, what the fuck is this, a goddamn movie? What the fuck did the money go? Like, where the hell did all that money go? Just a dumbass live service game. I guess it's like making a live service game is expensive. But Crash Bandicoot didn't even take that long to make. Crash Bandicoot 4 took, 2 years to make? It's a platformer. It's not like it's a freaking open world game. It's freaking 5 million copies was plenty of money. You made a profit. You made your money back and then some. Why not make a Crash Bandicoot, especially with Spyro in it? That game might have sold more if you promote it properly. Would have sold more than Crash Bandicoot 4 just based on the fact that Spyro in it. Because that's a freaking... come on, 20 million copies. You're gonna base the Crash Bandicoot 5 Crash Bandicoot 4 not selling, that much or at least half of that to not make a sequel. I only sold 5 million. Are you serious, man? Like, you're selling 20 million copies is a once in a while shit. All right, even Mario and Zelda just recently did those kind of numbers. Before that, they weren't doing those kind of numbers. And they did it on a console. They did it on one console. They weren't spread it among other consoles. For the fact that a freaking old IP like Crash Bandicoot that wasn't around for years, it literally skipped the whole generation. I remember the last Crash Bandicoot game I played with my friend while we were going to school was, I think, the Crash Bandicoot Twin something. I know, Twin Insanity, I think it was called. Like, that was the last Crash Bandicoot game I believe that came out. Because I'm a Crash Bandicoot-aholic, I grew up on Sonic, Mario, and Crash. Those are my 3 platforming heroes, you know what I'm saying? And freaking... That was the last Crash Bandicoot game that came out. That was on a PS2. I think Crash Bandicoot skipped the whole fucking generation, and it almost skipped the generation after that if it didn't just barely come out right at the PS4's ending life cycle. So Crash Bandicoot skipped the whole generation. I was about to skip, barely made it to the generation after that. And, and it came back and sold 20 million. Man, does absence make the heart grow fonder or not? 20 fucking million copies. That's a lot. But when something comes back after being gone for so long, those are the kind of numbers you're gonna freaking do. Crash Bandicoot 4, it came out towards the end of the life cycle of the PS4. And it also came out for the PS5. You could upgrade it. And I don't think, did Crash Bandicoot 4 come out for the Switch yet? Maybe it didn't. But I don't know. But like, yo, 5 million copies is a damn good number, man. And it probably, and that was reported like a while ago. So it probably sold like 6 million by now. And the numbers are going to keep increasing as time goes on. It probably keeps selling millions of copies slower. But come on, really? You're not going to make a Crash Bandicoot freaking 5 with Spyro in it? Are you seriously? Like, it's not even going to cost... Is it even going to cost you that much money? All you got to do is use the same engine you have for Crash Bandicoot. You already have the engines. Well, I think it was Unreal Engine, right? Like, the engine's already there. Like, it's not like it's going to be a big graphical upgrade that's going to cost you a lot of money. It's not going to not take much just to freaking make the freaking Crash Bandicoot 5 a Spyro game. No, we need you guys to make one of our shitty live service games that everybody's getting sick of. Because that's what really matters. Why can't you do both? Crash Bandicoot 4 came out, and I went to my low period, but if I didn't go to my low period, I would have beat that game. And when I freaking started playing games again, it was Crash 4 that got me into it. Back to starting on my PS5, and I beat that game, and I fucking loved it. It was a great throwback to the old Crash games with like they did enough to make it new, even though it was an old formula. They made it nostalgic, an old formula, while still adding enough new to make it freaking, fun. The different characters you get to play, the freaking... the different power-ups you get and all that shit, they did enough. It was great. And now, I'm hearing about this too late. The fact that we're going to get a Crash and Spyro freaking wet dream crossover to satisfy us PlayStation fans, and then we don't get it because Activision is a freaking dumbass company. This is what happens when any freaking form of entertainment becomes too popular, man. These freaking money-hungry freaking lawyer... accountant, I don't know what the fuck, they come in and then everything, the only thing that matters is the fucking money. They always think about the money, and God forbid any kind of creativity at all, or what the fans want. We need to do what makes us the most money, or we think is gonna make us the most money. It's attack most back to the fence on my mouthpiece.